Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. I was just thinking of a song that came out a number of decades ago by the great David Bowie. The song is called Changes, and one of the lyrics in the song is "Turn and face the strange changes." We're all going through changes, whether you want to or not. They're there, and especially in a business world, if you're a leader or you have people that you work with and you're responsible for, how do you manage the change, whether it's on the corporate level, whether it changes within staff, whether your team individually maybe are going through some personal changes? How do you even navigate that? Well, she's somebody that helps people all the time, and she is an emotional intelligence and leadership coach, and she's back with us. Nadine Zainoun is on the program. Nadine, welcome. How you doing today?
Great. How are you, Steve?
I'm good. I'm good. Been through a lot of changes recently.
Same here.
Yeah. And why does it seem like now or in the last year or two, whatever, that there's more changes here and going on? Do you think it's part of COVID that kind of stirred things up?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. I mean, post COVID, during COVID, there were so many changes, and
Sure.
we needed to adapt to a lot of things. But also post COVID, the drawbacks that were caused by COVID, they spilled over, if you want. And post COVID, the time, you have many changes. Some people don't want to go back to the time before COVID, and some people do want to go to the times before COVID. So there's
Hmm.
people are looking at it in different ways. But yes, absolutely, COVID has caused a lot of change in the world.
I also think it's that people realized, whether it's professionally, personally, that they had time to think and they had
Mhm.
time to think of a different way.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
maybe that was imposed from COVID. For example, it could be business wise, where people are saying, wait a minute, I can work from home. That's what I'm going to do. And then make a change. Maybe the business makes a change, even personally. You know, I,
yeah,
I got to be next to this person 24/7 now because of COVID. And the change comes potentially all different ways. But it is challenging if you're managing an organization and you have to you have to manage the change, I guess, navigate through it, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's a difficult challenge, and there's no way you're going to run away from change because it's inevitable. It's going to happen,
Yeah.
and you just need to find the best way of managing that because from statistics, and different studies, they show different percentages, but in general almost half of the changes that happen in organizations are failures. So they end up in a failure. It's not successful. Only around 30 to 35% are considered to be successful changes. So that's quite a low number. So it is a big challenge to manage a change when you're a leader.
Wow. Well, that says a lot right there.
Yeah.
And even more so why you want to stay away or try to stay away from change, but that's not going to work. And it's funny, last time we got together, I was sharing some situations that I was involved in where
Hmm.
uh yeah, companies that I was with and leaders. And as you're talking, I was thinking about one of those companies and a change that they made.
Uh-huh.
And it was a big change, and revenue and lots more went, just like you
Mhm.
said, down and took time. They stuck with the change. They could have pivoted, and it was
Really?
personnel. It was personnel. They could have changed that again, but they stuck with it, and now it started coming back, and it's much better.
Okay.
Is it close to where it was? Not, not so much, but much better. But it was a bad idea in the beginning, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they lost a lot of money along the way as they were waiting for things to kind of trend back up. What are the starting points here if you manage an organization, you manage a team, you have to make changes or changes are happening within the framework of the organization? What are
Hmm.
some key things that you should keep in mind?
Now, first of all, communication is very important. So the first step is you really need to communicate about the change with everyone in the organization. Okay, independent of the levels of the employees, everyone needs to know that a change is coming up.
Mm.
And the earlier you communicate, the better, because people are more prepared. And you need to like repeat and repeat and repeat. So there needs to be repetition of this communication. And when you communicate, it's important, first of all, to have a clear vision of why this is happening. People sometimes, or leaders sometimes, they just address the company and they tell them what's going to happen. Okay, we're going to do this, that, and whatever. And there's no why. Okay, but why is this happening? Why do we need to make a change? People think that things are going on well. So there needs to be a very good rationale for the change, and it has to be shared with people. And not only why, it's also connecting it with some vision, like some vision, a mission, relating it to the mission of the company, to the meaning that the company has. So when you connect this change to a meaning or to a mission, people are more likely to accept it.
Hmm. It may be rhetorical, but I'm going to say it. When you communicate these changes and the
Mhm.
vision, do it honestly and
Yeah,
be fully transparent, or really as much as you can, because people can pick up on that. They will detect that it's not genuine. And eventually they're going to find out anyway. Uh, a friend of mine who is an attorney
hmm,
said to me a couple of years ago, and it was during a time where I was seeking some answers, and he said, "Whoa, hold on, just a moment. It will all be revealed."
hmm,
All and I truly believe everything gets revealed. So if you're
absolutely.
trying to hide something, from your team, try to be as transparent as you can. I know that sometimes you can't go into the finer details as much as maybe you want to, but go as deep as you can, because people,
Exactly.
once I call it the rock in the pond, where once you take the rock and you put it in the pond and the ripples go out, and the ripples are your employees and everybody, like, well, whoa, what's going on there? You've already shaken them up. So you want to reassure them as much as you can, make them feel comfortable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even if, as you said, Steve, being fully transparent, even if it's negative news, even if you're going to downsize, there's going to be a need for downsizing, or there's a possibility of downsizing. I mean, they're going to find out sooner or later. And just keeping things uncertain, just communicating part and not the full truth, this will get people to start gossiping and, talking.
Yep.
And all this gossip and all this talk will only create negativity inside the company. And, it will create a toxic environment, which will impact people's focus. It will impact people's engagement. And eventually it's going to impact the productivity of people and, their innovation. So these things really need to be out in the open, as you said, as much as we can. Sometimes you cannot share like the full details, but as much as you can, it's important to have that discussion with people, to be transparent, to offer a forum where they can ask questions and they can also talk about their concerns and their fears. Because whether we like it or not, change is going to create fear. It's, a normal part of,
Yep.
us human beings. It's going to create fear in people, and fear causes resistance. People are going to resist the change. They don't want to change. So the more you can, manage that fear, the less the uncertainty will be, and people would more likely be able to go back to their normal functioning mode.
This is what you're doing me. You bring out memories of these situations of the leaders that we're talking about. And the only job that, and I'm thinking here, yeah, it was the only job that I was released from.
Uh-huh.
And I was going way back, but I was operations of a company,
Hmm.
and running multiple radio stations. And, they had some financial issues here and there, but it seemed like it was okay. And I said to the owner, we would talk occasionally, and he would say to me, if anything doesn't look good or things are going to change, I will let you know. I said, just let me know. I don't care what it is. Just give me a heads up that something, is challenging here, and
Yeah.
maybe would change in my world. You have my honor, my word. And
Did
I
it happen?
I'll never forget. It was November morning. I woke up on a Saturday and got an email where he told
Oh,
me, yeah, that I
ah,
was leaving.
yeah, that must have
Just
been really difficult.
it was, and yeah, always go with your gut. So my gut was that they're probably financially not doing that great at that time. He has since sold the company, and one of the stations up for sale again. Um, but it was more of the dishonesty that he
Yeah.
didn't hold true to his word.
Yeah.
And if he just called me up and said, just giving you a heads up, in the near future, we might have to make some changes, even if he knew he was going to have to make some changes and just tip me off that it was coming, that's what he said he would do. Always hold
Yeah.
true to your word. That's
Absolutely. So
yeah,
there was a break in trust. So you lost the trust with this person.
a hundred
So
percent. Yeah.
yeah,
And I don't know
absolutely.
if I'll ever work with him or run, in the same circles. I haven't heard about him in years. Maybe there's a reason why. I don't know. But just how do you do that in an email? Come on, really? Like it
Yeah,
was just like
an
I
email.
remember it was like 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, did I just read what I thought I read? Let me read that again. Let me go get breakfast. I'll come right back and let me look at that again.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Just like
that email, that's like the worst way of communicating such bad news and serious news.
it's
Very
cowardly.
unempathetic to go back to empathy.
Well,
This is
okay,
truly very far from empathy.
let's put that back in there when you're working with your team in terms of change. You have to have a heart. These are
Yeah,
people. These are not robots. These are not, machines. So
yeah,
yeah, very
yeah.
good point to have some empathy for
Yeah.
your team.
And you need to expect resistance because there will be resistance. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no way if resistance doesn't happen, then it means people are shy to or scared to really be honest with
Yeah.
you.
Or don't
Be-
care, which
or
either
don't care.
are not important
Exactly.
or not
Which
or
is
not
not
good.
good.
Yeah.
Both cases they're not good. So yeah, it's really important to expect that resistance is going to happen and prepare yourself as a leader. Okay, how am I going to manage that? Because it's very easy for us when we see resistance, we take this as, let's say, a threat to our ego or to our decision or whatever. So we will tend to not like it and maybe resist the resistance as well. So you're going to maybe judge that person as negative. Maybe you're going to start to exclude them from certain information. You won't share with them as much. You won't include them in other things. And this will only make the situation worse. So, surely I need to expect that resistance is going to happen. And I need to prepare myself as a leader to really acknowledge that resistance, accept it, and be curious about it. So understand, I mean, okay, what's going on? Because resistance means fear. When I resist something, it means I'm afraid. This is what's going on in my brain. My neurochemistry would be, high cortisol level. It causes fear in my brain. So when I am resisting, I'm in fear. And I have to, as a leader, I have to understand that and try to connect with them and listen to them and see, okay, what's making them afraid? They may be afraid, because they might lose their job or their position. They might be afraid because they're doing so well now, and maybe this new change is going to give them more responsibilities, and they're not sure whether they're going to be good enough and up to the level of
Mhm.
these new responsibilities. So there are a lot of reasons why people get afraid. So when I understand that, I can help them through it. I can give them trainings, maybe I can prepare them, and this is something that's very important in change, in times of change. If you're like making a digital transformation and people need to know how to, they need new skills, you need to train them on these skills, and this needs to happen during the phase when you're launching that change so that they feel comfortable and they don't feel afraid of the new skills that they might or might not have.
You did bring up something, and it just sparked in me that the leaders that we're talking about that
Hmm.
are orchestrating or communicating the change, they've got fear. Maybe
Yeah,
we forget that sometimes that they have
yeah,
fear. We put
yeah,
them on a pedestal, they've got it all together, whether they're doing the right thing or not. Uh, they've got fear, I'm sure, and they can't let that fear show, at least in their minds, because then the team's not going to have the same strength or buy into what they're doing. How do you help a leader overcome that fear of change?
that's a very good question. And that's really true. I mean, let's be realistic. Any change brings on fear in the person who's even making the change. So here there's a double fear. There's a fear of how people are going to react and whether the organization are going to really buy into this change. And there's another fear of whether this is the right decision, because there's always an uncertainty of whether, this is the right decision to make. And this is where, when we're coaching a leader on such a thing, it's very important to go to process this fear and understand where is it coming from? Why is that fear there? And when they process that out loud and they understand what's behind that fear, they will really know whether the fear is just maybe they're worried about the people, and then they can take action on that respect. So, okay, if you're worried about the people, how can you show these people that you care about them and that you're worried about them, and what can you do to address that? So then they would have an action plan there. On the other hand, if we discover that the fear is actually because the risk they're taking is not justified, then maybe they can address that as well. So it depends where the fear is coming from.
How do you work with them? Let's say somebody, is a leader and you work on all different levels. We're just focusing on change today.
Sure.
And how does that process work?
Now, it starts before the change has been decided. So during the brainstorming process. And so if we're working with a team, which is very important at this stage, because a change shouldn't come from one person. I mean, it should be something that comes after, discussion, especially if it's a major change like you're changing the culture of the organization, or, you're restructuring the whole organization. It shouldn't be one person making that decision. So it starts by coaching the team on this decision and making, clarifying what is it they want, what they want to achieve from it. Is it necessary? What happens if they don't make the change, etc. And going through that brainstorming process. And then it happens one-on-one with the person who is leading the change, for them to feel comfortable and confident about, because they also have fears, as we said. So we go through that process of clarifying, knowing where the fear is coming from and trying to address that, so that we move it aside, so the leader will feel more confident of making this change, because this is very essential. You need to show people that you're confident, but not that you're a robot. You can share with them that you had some fears along the way, and be very transparent about that. That's okay. I mean, it's okay, because you're human, and this only shows them that you're human and you're connected with their fear as well. But at the end, you need to be confident when you stand up there in front of them. And this is where we coach on, is being more confident of that decision. And if they're not confident of the decision, well, it's never too late to make a change or tweak. As you said, the company you were with, they made a change, and their results went downhill. It's never too late to make a change and to make an adjustment. On the contrary, when you make a change, there's a step after implementing the change, which is always, check what's going on and see and measure, the results, so that if you're not getting the results you want, maybe you need to tweak it a bit, or maybe you need to change it a bit. But of course, giving it enough time for the effect or the impact to show.
What was that number, Nadine, that you gave before, where change can often result in failure? What was that number again?
Some research says around 50%. Some research says 70%. So it depends on how they look at it, but it's 50 to 70%, which is a big number. Even 50, half of the time change doesn't happen. It doesn't work out.
What if you're a leader? Corporate says we need to make this change. You don't agree with that change. You have to echo that to your staff and team. What do you do? How do you do it?
That's a great question. And it's not an easy situation for somebody to be in. But surely, if you're not bought in on the change, you need to use your courage and speak up. So it's very important to speak up. I mean, not resist it, but at least try to understand what made them think that way. Voice out your concerns, voice out your fears, voice out your worries, because that's all information that is important for the management to take into consideration. Because if you're not bought in, as we said before, if you're not confident of the the change of the
Sure.
decision, then this is going to cascade down. People around you are going to feel it, they're going to sense it, and they're going to unconsciously take advantage of it. So it's not going to work. And I
Mm,
think this is where a lot of times change goes wrong. It happens only at the upper level. No one is involved on lower levels. And then the buy-in, they don't get the buy-in. And if people don't, buy into this and they don't implement the change will not result in good, the results that you want. It will not give you the results that you want. So that's why a second thing that, other than communicating transparently, a second thing that's very important for leaders to adopt when they are in a change is to collaborate with people, and very early on. So include people in that change, involve them, prepare them, tell them that there needs to be a change, show them, what would happen to them, to the company, to the organization, to the mission if the change doesn't happen. Okay, so that they feel, the pain that the company is going through, and then they would want to make a change, but they can contribute. And many times, when you listen to people, they have amazing ideas, and they can create, they can innovate a lot. And maybe sometimes this input that they give you, you wouldn't need to downsize. You would probably come up with some brilliant idea just by listening to the people. So the change comes, if you want, from down up rather than from up down.
would you say that if you know a change is coming,
Mhm.
right? That you should start talking with your team, every player. They don't know that you know that something is happening, something is changing. Should
Mhm.
you start the process of having them buy into it or understanding it, just slowly working your way into that?
I, Personally, I think I would do it. Personally. Now, of course, when you're in a company, you can't do things all on your own. You have to abide by, the strategy of the company.
Sure.
But I would surely try to, let's say I'm a middle manager and, I have senior managers above me. I would try to convince them that if we really want to have a change, let's try to share this with, the employees and hear them out and hear what they have to say about this and start the process there, because really they're very resourceful. Employees are very resourceful. They're the people in contact with the clients, the customers,
Yeah.
any
They're the front
stakeholder.
line. They're in the
Yeah, they're
trenches.
the front line. They're in the front line. So they know better than management what's really going on and what works and what doesn't work.
Hmm.
And hearing them out is very important for the company, because many times these people give you innovative ideas, and these people, they come up with things that you would never even imagine as a leader.
I agree. Yeah, they give you a fresh perspective that,
Yeah.
and you need to listen to them. And I do agree with you as well that if you have some information as a leader that there could be some changes, it's not that you're not being upfront with them. You just haven't told them yet, but you might be grooming them for the changes. Let's say it's a different system. We're going to switch over here and we're going to do this. And what do you think about that? Let's say you're changing a certain platform, whatever it might be, CRM, whatever, and you want to get their feedback on it. So it's almost as if it's like strength in numbers. You're
Yeah.
getting them behind you. But I really think it's a tough situation when upper management is,
Don't want that.
and you're in the middle. So you can't go against what upper management says, but you need to show the confidence to everybody else that you're on board. So now you're kind of stuck in the middle with this whole
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why it's very important not to be afraid of speaking up to upper management, and really, in a very respectful way. You're not going to make any problems or resist anything,
Sure.
but really in a very professional, very respectful way. Just
Hmm.
really be honest about what you're feeling and what's going on in you regarding this certain decision.
Yeah. So question, we have a couple of minutes left. Somebody works with you
Hmm.
and they've gone through, whatever program it is, what a number of sessions. Now you fast forward to 6 months later, and
Hmm.
this happens. Let's say you're the leader, upper management owners say, we're going to make a change, and you're like not on board, and you're not really sure how to handle it. Can they reach back to you and get your
Sure.
input and assistance?
Of course, of course. And many times this is what happens. It's, they go back and forth. So we finish a program, and then, they're doing really well, they're happy, etc., and they're really thriving. But a lot of times we're faced with new challenges. Even us as coaches, we're faced with new challenges. You need to go back. It's important to go back to your coach and discuss that with them, because even as coaches, we need our coaches as well. I have a coach. Everyone has a coach. Each one of
Sure.
us has a coach, because we always need to touch base with someone when we're facing something new, because we're humans after all, and we don't have all the answers.
And it's nice knowing that you have that Nadine safety net floating out there.
Thank you.
That you can reach back and just say, this just happened. What do you think I should say? Or even if it's something as simple or not, where I don't know how to word this email and
Yeah,
tell my team what's going on. How do I navigate that? You're there. You can they got you as an ally for
of course.
Yeah.
That's my role, to support them in any way that's possible.
How do we start the process? What's your website, by the way?
www.nadinezeinoun.com. So as it's written here, NADINEZEINOUN.com. And on my website, there's a place where they can book a call. And of course, it's complimentary, and I would love to support them in any way possible.
Fantastic. I love your honesty. I love, even before we were talking, I threw one question to you and you just said, you know what I would do? This is what I would do. And you're being you're being honest. That's and it's based on years of experience coaching and helping people. So change is here to stay. It's not going anywhere anytime fast. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nadine, great talking with you. I appreciate it.
Same here. Thank you, Steve. Have a wonderful week.
You too. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.